Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forsythe, and today we are taking a look at the latest on the Montreal Canadiens. Guys, we are coming up on the NHL draft. It's very exciting. Up in Montreal, they're hosting the draft. Oh, there's only one way they could have one up that, and that is getting the first overall draft pick. But there is no guarantee that they do select first overall. There has been reports out there. We'll get to that in a second. So the Montreal Canadiens are definitely in a rebuild. I don't think there's much of a question of if they're on a crossroads or not. No, this is a full-on rebuild in Montreal. But there's been some conflicting reports from the general manager, Kent Hughes, that maybe leave a little bit more on the table than we thought. We take a look at the three finalists for that first overall pick. Who could it be up in Montreal? Most of you guys have let me know pretty often, and obviously you guys comment a lot. Of course, the Habs fans always show up. But we also have some guys linked to the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, like guys that can play on the roster next season other than draft picks. Because most of the Montreal Canadiens draft picks this year will not play. Maybe a couple of first-round picks. I'd hope their first overall pick plays. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So let's start off the video with some of the guys that have been linked to the Canadiens. Now we know the Habs blue line needs some serious rebuilding. Talk about a huge part of the rebuild is, that defense. And one of the guys that's rumored to come in, and this is the Montreal Canadiens have been linked to defenseman Tyson Barrie. He's currently playing with the Edmonton Oilers. He had signed there as a free agent after coming off of being with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played fairly well in Toronto, but struggled in his time in Toronto. And before that, was a pretty solid D-man in Colorado with the Colorado Avalanche. His game has definitely taken a step back, but from Montreal, you almost look at this more as an incentive. Is there a way they could maybe pry any assets from the Edmonton Oilers and also acquire a veteran defenseman that's been around the league? He's a pretty mobile defenseman as well. I think under a good system, a guy like Tyson Barrie can succeed, believe it or not. Asked Shane Gostisbehere a year ago, do you think he'd have the season he had this year in Arizona? Again, minutes can kind of help out certain guys. So hopefully Tyson Barrie can kind of get that same sort of flavor. Again, the Oilers are trying to move out cap space, so you do kind of they have their hands tied. And there could be a situation where the Canadiens could kind of take advantage of that cap situation. Now, this is from Ken Webb. And he said that the Montreal Canadiens would have interest in Pierre Luc Dubois if made available. This isn't really much of a surprise. The Habs have always been in conversations. Even in his time in Columbus, there was some potential possibility of him going to the Habs. The latest one is that if he does hit the free agency market, it is expected he is going to be heavily favored to go to the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know what that necessarily is. I think it's a tie he has with his family. He played with the Cape Breton's Screaming Eagles, so I think there's just enough connections there where I think he does want to return to Montreal. So let me know what you guys think of that. Is that good for the Habs if he comes in? Again, there's been some questions about his character and his on-ice play here and there. He did put up some really good points last year. He was a former third overall draft pick, so there is things about Dubois that are, there's lots of potential there. There's also some things where you're like, is this guy really what we want? So this is from Bruce Garriott, and he says the Canadiens are looking for another pick in the top 10 and have been reaching out to every team to see what it would take. This is no surprise either. I think a lot of Habs fans would love to see them get another draft pick here. Now, here's the thing. It depends on what teams they're talking to, because if you ask certain teams, what do they want? Right? What is Josh Anderson's worth or Jeff Petrie? I don't think they're getting a top 10 pick for Jeff Petrie. Sorry to break it to you, Habs fans, but I think there's a couple guys on that roster, if they really wanted to move, that they could maybe not get a top 10 pick, but what would it take to get the 13th pick from the Islanders? What would it take to get, say, Pittsburgh's pick? I know Pittsburgh wants to keep their draft pick, but if they lose Malkin and Letang potentially, is that something they would do, right? So that's kind of the scenario that the Habs can maybe sneak in and grab a draft pick from somebody for a team that wants a player right now today. I look at other guys like Mike Hoffman. Could they get a similar return for Toffoli, right? So I know Toffoli's traded, but you're looking for that value, right, coming back. So we'll see what Kent Hughes can whip up this summer. I think there's been a lot of talk about maybe getting the Devils pick at the second overall slot. It's going to be tough, but it's not impossible either. And this is another interesting thing from Kent Hughes. He says the Habs still don't know who to take at number one. And it's down to Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, and Yura Slafkovsky. Hughes also says that he values character as much as skill. And he also said, lastly, Hughes said they could trade the pick if it makes sense and will help their team. So he very much generalized that and kind of is allowing the media to run with whatever possibilities they want. I don't think we're going to see them trading that first overall pick, say, for DeBrincat or Kane in Chicago. But that's, he's trying to create that buzz. I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think they are going to select one of those guys. But Logan Cooley, hey, listen, there's still a chance he gets first overall. It seems like Montreal is down to those three guys. They've probably been down to these three guys for a while now. And considering the draft is coming up this week, I would assume that it's very likely they just end up saying, yeah, let's get this done, right? We're picking this guy. So as I'm making this video, they might be deciding that right now. So we'll see what happens there. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for Habs news today. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know who you guys think the Montreal Canadiens should take at that first overall slot. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go Habs.